Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Diplomacy of Henry Kissinger. This is a book written by Henry Kissinger. Just finished reading it. It took a lot of time. Read it in several phases and parts. So basically, let me talk a little bit about Henry Kissinger first. Henry Kissinger is a very renowned American diplomat and a political scientist. He has also served as the Secretary of State during Richard Nixon's time, and he was very popular in mainly in South Asian politics because U.S. Foreign policy mainly towards South Asian countries and later on even towards China. So not only that, but also that Henry Kissinger is the expert of China affairs. This person is also quite famous for his role in negotiating the nuclear program of several countries, including Pakistan. And one of his statements was quite popular in Pakistan, that he openly threatened Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to roll back their nuclear program. Keeping all that aside, oh, by the way, this person is living and he is 100 now in 2023. Keeping everything aside and keeping all issues related to his approach towards several countries and towards several policies which can be debatable, and I may disagree on several things, but despite of all that, he really lived a remarkable life. Giving you a little background of his life, he was born in Germany, and he was a German Jew, and later on he migrated to US. He has served in military, and then later on he entered into politics and diplomacy. Quite inspired. He is a talented person. Again, regardless of whatever differences I may have, or I may disagree to his approach, his policies, and his writings as well. Okay, so now we get into a brief discussion on his writing. First of all, it was not really an easy job, and it is not an easy job. There are a lot of things which I wanted to skip, but then, yeah, I tried my best to go through each and everything. So basically, this book, Diplomacy, it begins with a historical overview of diplomacy, talking about its origin, referring that to the ancient Greece, and talking till the modern era, and the evolution of diplomacy and the international relations, and how it plays a role in conflicts and international conflicts. And then he gave some practical examples. He talked about several issues. It is a kind of case study. So throughout the book, author provides a number of examples, number of case studies examples to illustrate the principle of diplomacy. So that is the only part which make it interesting, because theoretical things at some point get a bit boring, but when it comes to practical examples, like he talks about the Cold War, and he talked about the Congress of Vienna. So all those things were quite interesting for me. Okay. Another most important point, or I would call the central theme of this book, is the balance of power. So he talks about the concept of balance of power, and he argues that diplomacy is often driven by the pursuit of a balance of power among the nations. And then he discusses how shift in power can lead to the conflicts or stability. It can lead to the conflicts. And other point in this book is that Henry Kissinger is criticizing idealism in diplomacy, the idealistic approach to diplomacy, particularly the idea that diplomacy should be guided by moral principles. So he argues that idealism can lead to unrealistic expectations and ineffective foreign policy. Well, I agree on that part. That is quite much understandable. And then he talk about the role of the diplomat. He was a diplomat, and I mean, there's number of examples from his own life when he get into a lot of conflicts between different countries or between US and the other countries. So he provides quite valuable insight into the role of diplomats in shaping the foreign policy. Of course, he was an expert in that. And then he emphasizes on importance of skillful negotiation. Again, his field. The use of leverage, the cultivation of personal relationships between diplomats as essential elements of successful diplomacy. I'm laughing because I can recall the practical example from his life that he used when he was Secretary of State. He provides an analysis of challenges and opportunities in post-Cold War world, including the rise of China. As I was saying earlier, he is also expert on the China affairs. One worth sharing part is that his writing style is certainly intellectual, and its book can be an interesting reading for those who have interest in diplomacy or in international relations. Otherwise, in most cases, most people would find this book quite complex. Honestly speaking, I also find it a bit complex. That's why at certain points I wanted to skip. But still, in a way, it was not that gripping. But yeah, again, it depends. It entirely depends on your interest. What are your objectives, or what motivation you have to read this book? Okay, so let's talk about the criticism on this book, and then mainly this is, I mean, diplomacy is criticized for its realistic perspective, which some people argue that it downplays the importance of moral consideration in foreign policy. Like earlier, I was saying that he is a critic of that idealism, and then he emphasizes more on the realistic perspective. And then there is also critics also emphasize on his own actions as a diplomat, and particularly Vietnam War and the Nixon's administration, and then controversial, these are and other controversial things that came up during that era. Talking of the few only, there were several other things which could be discussed here. In conclusion, of course, his book is very much relevant, and one of recommended reading for those who are into international relations or into diplomacy or into foreign relations or foreign policies. So yeah, that's a must read. I think that's all. Thank you very much.